Disclaimer: the views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent. Listener discretion is advised. With the killer flow, thoughtful lyrics, and unrelenting determination, Omaha, Nebraska's own King ISO has been making a name for himself the last few years while cementing his place in the legacy of hip-hop, taking his spot on Tech Nine's own Strange Music record label and being mentored by the man himself. He's not only worked with Tech, but also other legacy hip-hop artists like Twista and the one and only Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I'm proud to know the man and now call him a friend and welcome him on today's episode of the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Caught on the Mic. You know, I don't know what I'm more stoked about right now. The fact that I'm talking to a fellow Nebraskan or the fact that I'm talking to a guy that got to go to the Super Bowl this year and represent the KC Chiefs.
Oh, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, Strange Music's own and Omaha, Nebraska's own King ISO. How you doing, my friend?
Man, I am blessed. Man, I have no complaints, man. How about yourself?
I am amazing. I have been listening to your music pretty much nonstop the last 2 weeks.
That means a lot, man. I hope you like it.
I love it. And what's great about it is my 14-year-old son is totally all into it now. So I get to share that experience with him.
Oh, man, I appreciate that. Thank you, man.
Without any further ado, let's talk a little bit about your story.
Yeah, man. Well, you know, my artist name is King ISO. I'm a Navy brat. I was born in Newport, Rhode Island. Moved around a lot, you know. Long story short, man, I ended up in Omaha, Nebraska, where a lot of my family's located. I have an older cousin, I want to say around the age of like between 10 and 13. He ended up getting me into music, you know what I'm saying? And prior to that, my stepfather was always the one playing a lot of hip hop music. So I fell in love with the craft, you know, late 90s. It was a lot of Bone Thugs being played, a lot of Tupac, Ice Cube, you know, West Side Connection. You know, a lot of the pioneers of hip hop music is how I got introduced. So I fell in love then. My older cousin, he just started taking me to a studio and showed me how to write bars. And next thing you know, I was teaching myself how to produce and play music. And, you know, I was born. The artist in me was born, you know, so.
There's a lot of good hip hop in Omaha, Nebraska, and I really appreciate you drawing attention to it.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. There's so much talent here. And I feel like we're in the beginning stages of starting to get, the global recognition that we deserve. There are incredible singers, producers, rappers. You know, we have Terrence Crawford. You know what I mean? You know, there's a lot of things that are happening within the Omaha or just Nebraska community as a whole. And I'm proud to represent where I'm from. You know what I mean?
You know, I played in bands for many years in Omaha, Nebraska, and I just happened to get out of it a couple of years before you got into it. And I'm super, super bummed out that we never got to cross paths in my time playing music.
Oh, man, you know, the beautiful thing about, you know, always having that that love and drive and ability to create music is it's never too late. So, you know, we could end up putting something together if you want, man. I'm always open to it, especially being home team.
For real, man. I love that. Let's get in the weeds about how you started making waves and what brought you to the attention of somebody like Tech Nine and where you're at now.
I don't want to give everybody like a Avatar movie because that's how long it would. You know what I'm saying? We'd be talking for like 4 hours. But after my older cousin, he goes by the name of Snake Lucci. Back then, he went by Snake. He funded and helped me put together my first album when I was like 16. I self-produced it. It was called The Reality Show. And we were making some waves, doing a lot of local stuff and beginning to do like little mini tours in like nearby, you know, cities. Like we'll go to like Des Moines, Sioux City, stuff like that, just kind of starting to branch out. He ended up going to prison for a while. and it put a halt on everything. So, I went through a lot of crazy stuff in my early teens, dealing with, mental health and stuff like that, and the mental illnesses that I was diagnosed with. Um, so I had like, a couple instances where I was homeless, you know what I mean? I got into some legal trouble here and there, and I ultimately just had to get my life together. So after I had my first son in 2011, me and his mom broke up. I was back homeless again. A buddy of mine, Tabo, who I was making music with at the time, we ended up getting like this small little office space. I used to, right by this park I used to sleep in. It was a lot going on, so we ended up getting this rental space, and then uploading tracks to SoundCloud. So I was uploading a lot of tracks to SoundCloud, and next thing you know, fans were bootlegging it and throwing it on YouTube. I didn't know nothing about YouTube. I didn't even know how to navigate Facebook or none of that stuff at the time. So one day he looked up and he was like, "Yo, man, you got like hundreds of thousands of plays on YouTube, bro. Like, we can do something with this." And I started getting the attention of a cat by the name of Twisted Insane, and he had this group called Brain Sick Music. We became really good friends, and I joined his group. And when I started making, a lot of royalties at first, I was able to get myself out of that homeless situation. And me and my firstborn son, mom, got back together. We ultimately ended up splitting. Me and Twisted, we were on the road doing shows and stuff like that. We bumped into Ritz, who was on Strange Music at the time. We got the freestyling back and forth in his hotel room. He went back and told Tech Nine about me and was like, "Yo, there's this kid from Nebraska. You really need to find him, and you need to do something with him." This is at the time he was getting ready to, I believe, leave. Tech said he was trying to contact Twisted and a couple other people about me, but they would never make the connection. It was like they just wouldn't give him the information. So he pulled up on us at a show in Kansas City, and he watched my whole show set. And he was like, "Yo, people were saying that you're the new Tech Nine, or like you're the next generation of me," type stuff. And he was like, "I had to see it for myself." I was blown away. And he gave me his number and he said, "We need to do something. We're going to do something because you have too much talent." Those were his exact words. He watched me do my show set. After that, he invited me, Twisted. I forget who else was on the road with me that day. We went to his house. He played us some unreleased stuff from an album he was working on. He was like, I'm going to find something for you." And long story short, me and the guys ended up having like a difference. I'm gonna just call it a difference. Me and Twisted ended up having like a difference, and ultimately, man, I fell out with one of my best friends, and I feel like it was all over the Tech Nine situation. There was a lot of satire going on the internet, little back and forth stuff, and then it was like some brother stuff. Right? I still consider him. I still consider him a brother. I don't have nothing negative to say about him. I'm grown. It was like 5 years ago, but it was tough because I had so much emotionally invested into that, and like I literally have brain stick tattooed on my body. But ultimately, it just didn't work out, and Tech feels like because he put his spotlight on me, that's the reason. And everybody else agrees. You know what I'm saying? That's when the split happened. So after that, he was like, "Yo, I mean, your whole group abandoned you." You know what I'm saying? So he was like, "I need to get you on this road. We need to do something." He was like, I feel kind of bad, man. Like, it's like I'm gonna help you out. And I was putting this album out called Dementia at the time, and he even offered to send it through his guys that he has. What do you want to call it? With like a deal through, like with N Grooves and RBC and all of them. He was like, "Man, hold tight. I can put you with these people." And I was like, "I ain't tripping off none of that. Let me just get on the road. I'll throw my album out." I was just ready to move. We did the tour. I had crazy results. The fans were chanting ISO every night. Travis O'Gwen started to see it. And I sold the most merch on the tour next to Tech Nine, which was crazy because I wasn't even a signed artist. Next thing you know, I get home from that. 3 months later, Tech and Travis O'Gwen invite me to dinner. Travis offers me a deal at Strange Music.
That's amazing. How does it feel to have somebody go from hero to mentor like that? And that's got to have a pretty profound effect on how you perceive yourself.
Like, I'm a firm believer in destiny. Like, real quick, how the universe likes to do its thing. I opened a sampler CD of Tech Nine probably when I was like 12 years old or something like that. It was for Angelic, right? So I opened it up and I put it in the CD, like the little 6 CD disc changer.
Yes.
And next thing you know, I just hear it and I'm like, this is the first thing I ever heard. And they were giving out free CDs back then just to get people hyped up for the album. And I'm like, who the fuck is this? Like this dude is I've never heard anything like this before. And I fell in love with his artistry because it was so different. It was rock, it was alternative, it was hip hop, it was rap, it's like everything balled into one. I was like, I've never heard nothing like this. So we were on LimeWire and Kazaa and all of that shit. I was just grabbing,
Right?
you know what I'm saying? Everything Tech Nine I could find. And then I want to say a few years later, um, I ended up bumping into him. Well, I came to a show. I wasn't even old enough to get in. And that's where if you find the infamous picture of me and him, I was like 14, 15 years old in that picture. And I remember standing in the front row and I was like, one day I'm going to do that. Like, I want to do that. I want to be with these guys. I want to do that. They were still moving around in Sprinter vans, right? So you got to think 20 some odd years later after I've been through just the ringer in life, you know what I mean? Like mental hospitals and all of that. And it's crazy because his mom was, the one who inspired him to talk about the stuff that he talks about, other than, of course, like the Doors. But his mom grew up in mental hospitals, and we found out that me and his mom took the same medication. You know what I'm saying? I don't believe in coincidences. So like, I was under the board of mental health or on the board of mental health, and I had like it was mandatory that I took a shot of Haldol because I used to cheat my pills. So I used to one shot in this arm, one shot in this arm, and I was a zombie, and I just had the craziest experiences ever. And there's like a part of my life that I don't remember because that is a side effect of all of that. There's like times where I might not have even been coherent and known what I said or did. Like there's this blacked out part of my memory. So to have him go from that to somebody saying you got too much talent and knowing that he identifies with what I dealt with because that's what his mom dealt with. And next thing you know, I think me and his first time on screen together, he did a series called Cathartic. And in the Cathartic series, I'm sitting in the mental hospital as a patient with him. That's how crazy the universe is. And then he had named, if you go watch it, he named it Igiamus Valley, and that's his mom's name backwards, which is Marisu. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, I had a real like crazy moment there. I was like, bro, like this is a part of my life. Like I've been through this, like outside of just like acting, and then it's like this is full circle. This is how the universe works. And he's a legit friend. We hung out for 6 months to damn near a year before we did any music.
There's a certain commonality about guys like you and I that are very transparent about the state of our mental health and how that lends into our sense of needing to be creative. Like through this podcasting journey, I've met a lot of UFC fighters and a lot of my musical heroes, and it's kind of lent to this sense of imposter syndrome where I wonder, when am I going to wake up from this? That's got to be kind of similar for you as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's something that I've had to come to grips with and just understand that it's like, okay, this is something that doesn't have me, I have it, and I have to, you know what I mean? I have to find ways to manipulate and maneuver around it because it's there. It doesn't control me. I just have to recognize when, it's almost like, what do they say? Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. That's kind of how I use my, the diagnosis that I have and the things that I deal with mentally. It's like, okay, I recognize when these things are happening, how I choose to either respond or ignore can ultimately shift what's going on in my day-to-day life. So I've had to become more aware. I used to be like a hoarder when it came to shit. Like, and it wasn't because I was trying to keep it. It was more so like I just kept packing it in and just not going through it. Like, yeah, just put this in a drawer, just put this in a closet, and these are all of my problems. And next thing you know, I have a mess. So, the analogy you used was like waking up from it. It was more so I had to like really wake up and realize what it was. You know what I mean? Because I would like I used to be obsessed with living in a dream state. You feel me? Like I would sleep my days away. Like I would literally just medicate myself to sleep and just like drink, pill pop, smoke, do everything so I didn't have to deal with reality. So and then to wake up from that and then get myself back together to actually live out what is a dream of mine is how the universe works in a crazy way.
Yes. So as a result of all of this, what is the most surrealistic experience that you have had so far?
Man, I think oh wait, that's a tough one. I'm not gonna lie. Like if I just had to like off the top of my head, it would literally be me being able to like call Tech Nine a friend. Like that, like because he's not like the other mainstream cats who have had all of this publicized success. He's somebody who did it outside of the industry. But to me, he was always like a Lil Wayne or an Eminem. Like he's always been in my top five. So he has the accolades and the respect of the greatest MCs to ever do it. And outside of rap music. So you got Elton John that'd be like, yo, Tech Nine's my favorite rapper, you have Lil Wayne that would say Tech Nine is my favorite musician. You have Eminem giving them praises. And this is like the pinnacle of music everywhere. You got people like The Rock, who isn't even in the music business, who will say Tech Nine is my favorite rapper. So it's like, it doesn't get any bigger than that when you get praise from just everyone. So for him to be like, yo, like, I want to pass the torch to you is a very surreal thing, especially where I come from and also how high I hold him, in that particular regard. It's like, holy moly, like me, you know what I'm saying? So it's very surreal because I never would have thought that I'd be touring with him, doing songs with The Rock himself and producing platinum hits for him like Red Kingdom and then that getting us to the Super Bowl and stuff. I'm like, all of that shit just seems like, and it's because he's my friend. You know what I mean? It's literally because we have a super dope relationship with each other.
Do you think that audiences now and fans now are reading more into that level of authenticity? And the reason I ask is because of labels like Strange Music and the Rhyme Sayers from Minneapolis not necessarily having the commercial success as some other hip hop artists, but having a lot more credibility due to their sense of authenticity and the freedom of being their most authentic selves.
Mhm. Yeah, man. With me, it's crazy because I don't necessarily identify as one of those people who would compare
Right.
the lack of commercialized success. I was always like, if I found something that I thought was dope, like I loved it. Like one of my other favorite MCs, period, just period, is Immortal Technique, right?
Yes.
So like Immortal Technique to me, I'm like, this dude changed my life. You know what I'm saying? Like this dude influenced me to like really tap into historical events and like really talk about something almost the same way that Tupac did. It was like every time I listened to him I learned something new or I gained some more insight on something that I didn't know about, and I was like, yo, like this dude is different. Like I like he's to me he's like a Nas. You
Yes.
know what I mean? So it's like
Yes.
that's a really good comparison, right? Because Nas has always been a historian. Nas is always gonna inform his listeners and try to put them up to date on what's going on in the world, and also do it in a dope fly guy kind of way. Um, Immortal Technique to me is like the same way, but he doesn't have the same commercialized success as a Nas, but I would put him right there.
Yep.
So it's like, you know what I mean? But I understand dealing with Tech because Tech has always expressed that he's like, well, people don't put the highlight on me because I wasn't on BET and MTV my whole career. I wasn't on the radio like that. But if I would have been, then he would be where a lot of these other cats are because people were able to see it. So you had to be one of those people who were going to shows or going to Sam Goody and Best Buy and just knowing and doing you had to really be a hip hop head. You know what I'm saying? Because if you just had what the radio fed you, then that's why a lot of people look at certain people on these top 50 or top 10 lists like, yeah, that's accurate versus us. We're like, nah, you guys are missing a whole lot of other people that are, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, yes. And the industry has changed so much in the past 5 years, let alone the past 10 years, with how much streaming
Right.
has taken over, let alone YouTube, because that's how 90% of new artists are discovered anymore.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. And you got to think about there's a respect factor in pioneering when you have people that were literally out of the trunk before the digital age. So these people had to go from city to city, meet person to person, build crowd to crowd. 5 people come to a show, then 10 people, then 50, then 100, then you get 10,000. You know what I mean? Through consecutive and subsequent touring.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy how they did that. You got people like Master P who did that out of the trunk.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So to look at the blueprint that they people like, No Limit and Strange Music have laid for independent music is insane, and you can't do it again because now we're in a digital age where imagine if Tupac had a Twitter, man. You know what I'm saying? like like I could get on here and I could you know what I'm saying? It was like magic back then. It's like you see him, then you don't. The only time you see him is when they want to be seen. Nowadays, I feel like people are spoiled with the constant feed of content.
Mm-hmm.
No pun intended. You know what I'm saying? Like you're on your feed getting fed content like we never could see what Biggie ate that day. You know what I'm saying? Unless he was just strolling down the street and some news cameras, saw him. It's like we couldn't see what shoes he wore that day. We saw what he wore on the cover of that magazine or in that video. Nowadays it's like it's almost like a level playing field because if you pay these curators over here, or if you know a good guy over here, you can get put on the playlist with legendary people. So it's like I kind of battle with that because I feel like there's a lack of respect for a lot of the artists that came before us. You know what I mean?
Right, because on one side of the fence, you have the good part of it where everything's going back to the era of the mixtape in a way, where through mixes and playlists, new artists are discovered that way. Then there's the other side of the fence where because people can cherry pick and put these compilations together,
right,
you're missing out on whole concepts and fully fleshed out art. Like how certain songs and skits tie into each other and tell a whole story. Like Raekwon's Cuban Links album or Jizz's Liquid Swords and other albums along those lines. So I battle that.
Like the old Ice Cube albums, man. Ice Cube really got me on my skit game. It was like it was like a movie. When you put it in, it was like a movie started. Like Dr. Dre when he did 2001, and it's like there's skits and it's like it glued the album together to where it made the whole listening experience a big and cohesive experience. It's not like, oh, we'll just skip around and shuffle it. Like you could press play and you have the whole movie experience. You know what I'm saying? It's like I call them audio films. That's what they are to me. Like a lot of those, even like with Eminem, bro. Like Eminem had funny skits, but it was still like dope. You had certain skits that lead into songs, and it made it seem like a whole entire movie. And I still use that format to this day. You know what I'm saying? So there's like, there's different artists now who are more single driven, and the songs are shorter because we're in this space now where they're like, oh, the attention span of kids and this, that, and the third, and then you have like the death of the third verse, and songs are never more than 5 minutes. And it's like back then, bro, people would do four verses. You'd have a double disc. You know what I'm saying? And now it's like people are just trying to get that streaming number right where it hits, and then just don't give them any more. I'm like, man, I want to give my fans like 20, 23 songs at a time. Always. Yeah, sometimes labels will advise against it because that's just the climate that we're in. And I believe certain payouts stop at certain places, but to me, that's not just what I do it for. I do it because I'm a lover of the art. You know what I mean, and the craft, and I want my consumers to be like, "Yo, like he gives a fuck about us as listeners." You know what I'm saying?
It's scary because it makes you wonder if All Eyes on Me would come out in 2023.
Oh my, I could only imagine, bro. I could only imagine.
Could you imagine if the world was robbed of All Eyes on Me, man?
Oh my God. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. Yeah.
I love that you have such a sense of connectivity with your fans and demonstrate that through your advocacy of good mental health practices and being conscious about your mental health. You're about to launch a project called Project Be Well. Let's talk about that.
Okay, so it's pretty much an indie label. Travis O'Gwen helped me start it when I got into a situation with one of my albums, and he was like, "You need something of your own," and we could get these albums all together. Because I still had one that was entitled "The Insanity Plea" that Twisted Insane had, and we had to get that. I had another standalone album of my own called Autophobia. And then we had Dementia, which was the one I dropped when I was on the road with them prior to being signed. We took these three albums, distributed them through Project Be Well, which is distributed by It Goes Up. So essentially, it's the same exact machine as Strange Music. The way that I came up with that, I always wanted to do something that was like, okay, the first project I ever did under the name ISO was like a mixtape, and it was called Project ISO, right? So with Be Well, I like Be Well wasn't Project Be Well wasn't the first name that I went with. It was I'm trying to think of what it was, but it wasn't available. So I was like, okay. I just went back through my discography. I was like, what can I call it? Whenever like this was the start of ISO, it was Project ISO, so we can do Project Be Well. And with Be Well, man, I really wanted to, like, I'm still in the beginning stages of putting it together. I have a lot of things written down. I have the logo. I have some artists that I'm looking at, bringing over. It's not just going to be just a hip hop or rap thing. Like, I want to do everything. So I've been looking, but I really want it to be something to where it's all about like awareness, man. Like I want when they come experience whatever we got going on, it's like they care about our well-being. So, our mantra is like, think well, speak well, be well. And I wanted to really have that impact. And that's what it's gonna do.
Man, I love all that. And you've been on a marathon of shooting music videos lately too, haven't you?
Man, so like I got a bunch of like feature videos I did. I did one with the homie Echo that just came out. It's called 21. Shout out to Echo. Super dope video. I did one for the homie Screwface, who's a big cat out here.
Yeah.
I think that drops a couple days. Yeah, I think either Friday or Saturday. The song is super duper dope. I just did a video for my OG Snake Lucci, the one that got me into music. I don't know when he's dropping that. I could imagine it would be in a few days or a week or so. And I just did one for X Rated for his new album. Nobody's heard anything like that, so you got an exclusive right there.
Woo!
It's a crazy dope song, man. It's his first project on Strange Music, and that's super dope. And then I have a video from Get Well Soon that we want to put out for I'm Okay that didn't get dropped last year, and I was like, we got to put it out because the video is so dope. And once we get that out, we're gonna get into my new album.
So what can you spill about the new album?
Man, the new album is so personal to me. This is my first time even speaking about it. You know what I mean? Like on a platform like this. But it's one of those ones, man. It's one of those ones. Like with every album, I always try to go back and really get in depth, about my story and find things that I might have missed or like, oh, this was important. I need to share this with the audience. But this particular one, It's like it's really a open, like I'm an open book on this one, and it's very, very, very personal. And I think this is going to be one of those ones.
So, with everything that's gone on the past 2 or 3 years,
Hmm.
your album Get Well Soon, featuring on the song Face Off
Hmm.
with The Rock and Tech Nine, getting to go to the Super Bowl, the continued development of your career.
Hmm.
What is your advice for making the world a better place as you see it right now with everything that's gone on?
Man, I had a talk with somebody who I love. We got on the subject of God, which is always a tricky and touchy subject because there's so many different beliefs. You know what I mean? There's a cornucopia of, like, I got to talking about energy, right? And I said, okay, no matter how you want to look at it, and no matter what you believe in, what they said was, I don't know if I necessarily believe in God, but like the dark energy and stuff like that, like I can see that, which means that they identify with seeing negativity a lot more than what you would see positivity, right? And that's all a perspective thing, which is also subjective. But I said, okay, you know, scientifically, and I just feel like just a reality of the situation is, energy can't be created nor destroyed. Everything here, it just exists, right? And I said, what I try to do with energy is I realize the multiple forms. I know that there are dark energies out here. I know that there are low vibrations. I know that people wake up and choose hate, and some people are hurt, and it has to come from some place, right? I don't feel like it just comes from nowhere. Like it just exists there. It attaches to them. Something happened to them. I'm one of those people who a lot of dark stuff happened to. I went through a phase in my life where I just wanted to burn the world down because I was like, the world did this to me. I'm in a mental hospital. I'm homeless. I don't have nothing to eat. Like, I'm so angry. And if there is a God out there, I'm angry at it. I went through this phase. And then one day it clicked and I was like, you know what? I need to hold myself accountable for how I'm reacting to what's happening to me and what I'm putting in the world. So the more that I was mad and the more that I was like, I just wanted to just burn everything down and have a sense of reciprocity, the more it just continued this cycle of damage. The more I was angry, the more I was like, oh, this girl cheated on me. I'm going to cheat back on her. These dudes did this to me. I'm going to do this back to them. The more that I did that, nothing ever changed. I got to a point where I was like, you know what? Let me forgive everybody and let me mean it. And let me just try to do something different. Let me not be the reason why people like myself feel the way that I feel. Because I felt like somebody hurt me. I take that energy, I pass it on to somebody else. I feel like I'm just as bad as the person who put that on me. I have now became my abuser and taking people like myself and putting them in a situation I'm in inadvertently, just from expressing anger or just having impulses to want to communicate that I feel some type of way. I chose to accept the fact that a lot of people are hurt. A lot of people are going through things that are inexplainable to them. They don't know how to necessarily communicate what they're going through. They have their own traumas. They have their own demons. They are wrestling and at the mercy of their mental every day. I can't and I don't want to be somebody who contributes to that energy, right? So I was like, I need to do some self healing. I need to forgive a lot of people that did horrible things happen to me, man. And I'm open about it. Like, I've been jumped, I've been shot at, I've been beat up, stabbed, I've been molested, I've been abandoned, I've been, you know what I mean? I've been like, through a lot of crazy stuff when I was a child. And I was like, I don't want to be this grown ass angry kid because I feel like that's what a lot of people are. And I feel like when you talk to people, when you get to the nitty gritty of why the way they are, everything connects back to their childhood. The more you get to unpack, it takes you back to where you started. And you're like, oh, when I was a kid, my mom used to, this would happen between mom and dad and da 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 da. And then this happened and certain people said things to you. You internalized it. You have these voices in your head that aren't yours from things that you heard and vicarious trauma you might have witnessed and went through, or you went through yourself, or with another sibling or other kids, and you grow up and you are the way you are because of what happened as a kid. And all these things that happened to me as a kid, it made me question, like, I don't know about religion. I don't know about God. I don't know about this. Well, you don't have to believe any of that, in my opinion, if you don't want to, but you have to be aware of energy. There is, to me, energy. If you don't believe in a God, okay, let's say energy is God-like. You can create energy. You can create a certain energy that's already there. You know what I mean? And you can pass it around. It's like some people wake up and it's like, oh, I'm just having a bad day. And then the way you choose to move from realizing you're having a bad day. You ever have a morning when you get up and you like, all right, I'm already not liking this day. Now you're late. You spill your coffee on your pants. You catch every red light and you cussing out everybody. And the day just progressively gets worse. And I'm like, because you're putting that energy out there. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of like that was my wake up call for me. I'm like, yo, I keep getting mad at everything and I'm doing stuff to people. I'm doing this and I'm, you know what I'm saying? And it's landing me in situations now. I'm in mental hospitals or I'm incarcerated or I'm like, I don't have nowhere to go now. I'm burning bridges and like I'm just an angry being. And it all traces back to my childhood. And I was like, I can't do that. I have to be aware of energy. Energy is everything. So I've been doing a lot of self-healing. And there are people older than me who, if you listen to somebody talk long enough, you'll always hear it go back to their childhood. And that's all I've been doing. I've just been unpacking. So what I would say, I know that was long, but I needed to get that out. But
No, I love it.
I appreciate you, man. Like if I had to, talk about trying to make the world a better place, as I see it, like you asked, is just realizing that things can and will happen to you. And things have happened to all of us, but it's up to us to try to be, the difference and understand that some people just need patience. Some people need help. Some people don't have the understanding or level of understanding that we have.
Yes.
At the end of the day, I feel like people just need love, bro. Like, that's it. I feel like if I wake up and I choose love and I move out of love, there are going to be times when it's not reciprocated, but I don't do it just for it to be reciprocated. I do it because I mean it. And I want to be a beacon and I want to be a pillar of strength and love and just motivation for people who feel like they don't have it, because some people just need that. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of war. It's a lot of conflict. It's a lot of poverty. It's a lot of hunger. It's a lot of, just, you never know what people are going through. And I feel like sometimes we get caught up in our own shit so much that we tend to think we're the only ones going through it. I'm like, bro, everybody's going through something, whether you rich or no matter what, like, because you got rich people that are dying by suicide. You got poor people that are dying, but it does, like, the mental battles that we have do not discriminate. You never know, bro. And trauma comes in all shapes, sizes, colors, circumstances. So it's like we can't judge nobody, man, and we can't exclude nobody when it comes to healing. Everybody needs some sort of healing and somebody to just be, feel safe with. You know what I'm saying? The world changes into a dangerous place when everybody feels like everybody's out to get them, or they feel like they can't trust nobody or love nobody. And these are things that are developed in our childhood, in our young adolescent years, our young adult life, and then we get older, and then this is just the way we are when stuck in this way of thinking. And I've been in and out of therapy, man, recently, and I've been unpacking a lot. And I'm like, yo, I gotta get back to that child, and I gotta have some conversations with him, because we're forced to grow up fast. You know what I mean? Especially our generation, we were forced to grow up fast. We were
Yes.
outside. We were exposed to a lot of stuff we didn't necessarily need to see, and we had to take care of ourselves. So when do we ever get to just be a kid, bro? When do we ever just get to? That's why, like, now, bro, like, I go do things I wanted to do as a kid. Like, bro,
Yes.
like, I'll go get the new Mario Kart. I got a Turbo Man doll sitting in my window.
Yes.
I go get the GI Joes I wanted, because I'm like, I never got a chance to just be him.
Yes.
And whether people understand it or not, is that you never stop being a kid. The world just revolved, and you got some gray hairs now. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like,
Preach.
I got grays coming in, bro. I'm getting older. You know what I'm saying? It's like, but that doesn't mean that kid disappeared. I'm still that person. You know what I mean? So I think about the youth, bro. That's my thing. Like I really think about like a baby is born not hating anybody. A baby just wants some milk, some love, some shelter. You know what I'm saying? And some rest, bro. You know, and then if you look at a lot of toddlers, bro, like they're just these beautiful creatures, man, who ain't tripping off nothing. They're not exposed to how the world is. They're not exposed to people like they just want to watch cartoons, man, just kick it. They're big old balls of light and love, bro. And I'm like, man, if we can get back to that and just we ain't worried about nothing, man, love, you know.
Right.
Like kids want to, a kid sees another kid. It's like, yo, they link up, they're playing. They don't even know each other's name. I've watched my kids run around the park with people they've never seen again in life. And for
Yes.
that moment, bro, they were like best friends versus
Yes.
people turning their nose up at people because they look away or so. It's just like, where did we go wrong? You know what I'm saying?
Yes. There's a lot of value in tapping into that sense of innocence when we held it the tightest.
Yep.
And you got me with that Mario Kart thing, man, because not too long ago, I bought myself one of those arcade one-ups of Mortal Kombat for the same exact reason, man.
You can do it, man. I feel like the more you get back into your younger self, you'll realize where a lot of things started to go wrong. It's a lot to unpack. There's so much trauma that we just, because we grow up and it's like we work, go to school, work, go to school, work, go to school. Now I got to pay for this. Now I'm working. Like everybody's just working, and then going through things that we kind of forget to enjoy. We kind of forget to like address problems. And another thing too, I forgot to mention is, you know, like when we're kids, bro, we didn't really have the voices that we necessarily needed. You know, I grew up around people where it was like I did what I was told and I didn't really argue that. You know, I didn't really express myself on how I felt. Number one, I didn't know how. And number two, I didn't feel like I had a place to. And that's not their fault, but there's a lot of people, bro, like kids don't feel comfortable saying things that they're going through to adults. Number one, they're either embarrassed, they're scared, and like I said, they just don't know how. And if you grow up like that, especially us being men, you know, we live in a, you know, this is, you know, be a man, you know, tough it out. You know what I'm saying? No crying, blase, blase. And then you grow up and you have all of these suppressed emotions. And then one day you just pop. And that's what happened to me. And I went on a rampage for like 10, 13 years of just crying and angry and just, you know what I'm saying? And feeling like some people, the people that seem emotionless are the people who have the most emotions because they're so angry. You know what I mean? Some people are just, they just seem cold. It's like, nah, there's something in there. There's a lot in there. That's how people get cold. You know what I mean? So, yeah, man, like, just realize that, man, you can, like, a simple conversation with somebody and actually giving a fuck about what they, you know, are going through as a human being could change so much. Like, asking somebody how they day went, not asking them about work or what they can do for you. Like, I don't need a favor. I don't need a money. I don't need a share. I don't need a like. I don't need none of that. I just want to know if you're okay. You know what I'm saying?
There are two phrases that tie into all of this perfectly. The first one being, be the person you needed when you were younger.
Yep.
And the second one being, is be that person you needed on your worst day.
Yep. Amen. Super, super real state. Super real. That's very real.
I love it. You've got two shows coming up in the area. The first one on April Fool's Day, April 1st, at the Bourbon Theater in Lincoln, Nebraska.
For real? Oh, yeah. Yeah, that falls on April Fool's
Day?
That's
yes,
crazy.
Sir. And the second one is on 4/20 in Omaha, Nebraska at the Waiting Room Lounge. I'm super excited for that one.
Yes.
I know I'm planning on being there.
I got you, man. Hit me personally, man.
Oh, man, that's awesome. We'll swap numbers as soon as we're done recording.
I got you, brother. Yep. But yeah, man, 4/20, man, it's gonna be a crazy show. I'm ready, man. I'm ready to get back out here on the road and talk to the people because that energy is much needed. I've missed the fans, you know what I'm saying?
This chat has been a blast. I love it. I love the music. King ISO, man. I love you and your music, my friend.
Love you back.
The world's a better place with you in it, my friend.
Likewise, man. Hey, we got to do this again. This is probably like the favorite one I've done so far because there's a lot of similarities. You got a lot of insight. I like your setup. I like your approach. I like the energy, man. So anytime you want me to get on here and talk about something, man, like I got you, bro. I got you.
I'm going to take you up on that. How amazing was that episode? Sometimes you just got to let your guest go and they say some of the most profound things. Search out King ISO on all social media platforms. And if you haven't listened to it yet, listen to Get Well Soon, his latest album, as soon as you can. My favorite song is Hypocrite. It has some very deep emotional resonance with me. Check it out. ISO is amazing. Glad to know him. While you're searching things out on the internet, make sure you search out Caught on the Mic on all your favorite social media platforms. Give me a follow at www.caughtonthemic.com. I always appreciate those 5-star reviews on your favorite podcasting platform, and I appreciate your support. This has been Caught on the Mic with Michael Clark. I'm Michael Clark. Until next time, thank you.